Good morning, everyone. My name's Mark Kay, and I'm the Head of Finance and Operations across our corporate property divisions at Move With Us. Part of my job is to look at regional trends, national trends, and use that to forecast our own resource requirement, as well as set our budgets, etc. like that. How I do that is look at last year, compare it to this year, and then see if there's any other external factors that may influence. So, up front, I will just say that this is the first time I've ever presented to an audience on this scale. So as you can imagine, I've been flooded with loads of hints and tips, and everyone keeps saying, never make any apologies for what you're about to say. So 2 apologies. Firstly, there are a lot of numbers and graphs in this presentation. It's no coincidence I've been given the early slot. We had to make sure you all had caffeine running through your veins still. And secondly, what those numbers actually show. I know I'm not the bearer of bad news, but the market's tough. You all know that, but that's what I'm going to be showing you here today. I'm going to look at the UK and regional pictures, some of which aren't great, but I know you all represent different regions, so I'm sure you're interested to know how you are getting on against your region and how your region compares to others. I'm not going to answer the why. I'm going to propose a few ideas, make a few suggestions that I'm sure will fuel some interesting conversation throughout the day. But the usual economic factors are not those at play here. So, running order. I'm going to start with listings. I'm going to focus most of my time there. For 2 reasons. The numbers are all really clear on listings. And secondly, listings fuel sales, basically. If sales aren't affected yet, they will be. And I see this in our corporate property division. A good sales rate can prop up sales levels for a short period of time, but listings hit the pipeline, and so the world does eventually dry up. I will move on to sales, because there are some interesting differences of opinion out there. And finally, I'll look at the economics just to see if there's any factors there that are fueling this trend that I'm not seeing. Okay? I'll just put a few of the headlines on screen. I'll give you a few seconds to look through. These are on listings, and the sentiment's pretty much the same across here. I've chosen the corporates here because, as listed companies, they have to report to the market regularly. And you can just see we've got 10% down, 15% down, even as high as 40, 45% down up there. And that will fuel share price tumbles, which you can see is another headline. So I'm sure you will want to spare a few moments just to consider those in the corporate world less fortunate than us. We'll move on. UK property listings. I'm just going to explain the graph here and the format of it, because I'm going to keep it consistent throughout all our regional analysis. So I'm going to compare 2014, and that will be represented by a blue dotted line, to 2015. And that'll be a blue solid line. I've gone January to October. The November 2015 data hasn't been released yet, and so I'm going to compare like for like, but I think we all know what November and December does. This will show new UK online listings only. Our data source for this is home.co.uk, who are our data partner at Move With Us. In fact, their data fuels many of the systems and tools that we use, some of which you'll see later today. And it's the most comprehensive online data set in the UK. So I'll start with 2014. Fairly standard seasonality last year. Jan to March, a sharp increase. We saw it drop off in April, then again in June. Peaks in July and May, then it falls off towards the end of the year. So I'm just going to overlay 2015 now in 3 different stages. So you see, to start with, we had a really great start to the year. Absolutely booming. January was well up on the year before, and that continued all the way through to March. It then flattened out. Now, in April, that's no bad thing. We'd usually expect it to decline, but we didn't get that May spike, which we'd usually see. With the election, I suppose that was to be expected. There was a lot of uncertainty around that. What is surprising, though, is post-May. We didn't get any of the July spike. It's gone off completely. And actually, in the last 4 months, from July to October, It's got no worse, but it's got no better. And in that period, we've been 9.3% down on the year before. And it's that stat that I'm going to bring through onto all my regional analysis as well. I will just say, actually, to try and help build some excitement here, I've ordered the regions by least affected all the way to worst affected. Yeah, I'm presenting data, so I need to get my excitement in there somehow. So, number 9, the Northeast. So, 2014, actually a quite similar shape to 2015, to the UK. And 2015, a good first half, falling away in the second half, and that was 2% down in the 4 months to October. Then moving to Yorkshire and the Humber, similar shape to before, and again slightly lower in the last few months of 2015, and we're up to 2.9% there. Number 7, the Northwest, a bit spikier 2014, and 2015 you can see the gap starting to widen slightly, and we've been 4.4% down there. Now number 6 is the East Midlands. We start to see a bit of a jump here in shortfall. 2014 there. And you can see since April, May, the gap's actually been quite big there, and we're up to 8% down. So now we're going into the top 5, guys. Some excited people. Normal 2014, 2015, all the way from May, really quite low down, and that gap's nearly 10% now. So I'll now take you through the Southeast. I would like to make a point here. Also, not how far down we are second half, how far up it has been in the first half. And you've probably noticed that I've actually moved from north to south. There's a real divide, actually, in how the country's performed. So really good first half of the year. Second half of the year, fallen off. And that gap is now over 10%. Southwest, similarly, spiky 2014, and a huge gap in this last half of the year, 12.8% down. Now we're going to the top 2, and this is where the numbers actually start to get quite scary. The east of England, which I was surprised to see was the second worst performing region year on year. Huge gap year on year. You can see there, the gap is just huge, and that's 15% down year on year. And I'm sure you're not going to be surprised to see that number 1 is London. Massive spike between April and July, potentially fueled by the possibility of a mansion tax that might have been coming. And 2015, actually quite flat all year, more so than a lot of the other regions. And brace yourself, we are 18.7% down year on year. To emphasise the first half, second half divide that we've seen through all those graphs, I'm going to show you a year-on-year regional swing. I'm going to show you, for each of the HPI regions, their year-on-year position in April, and then again, a year-on-year position in September. So April, you can see that every single region was up year-on-year. 2015 was better than 2014. London was absolutely soaring, 16% up, and you go all the way down to Yorkshire and the Humber, although just 1%, but still up year-on-year. I'll give you a few seconds just to look at that, because I'll overlay quite a bit more data on this. And that 8% down in the UK equated to 8,000 listings, just to give you an idea of context and size of this. So, September, the polar opposite. So every single region down, and you can see there London was 19% down. So they've gone right from top of the table all the way down to the bottom. Any Chelsea fans in the audience that know that feeling? Surprisingly vocal, actually, that's good. Yeah, so you see there that the UK then settled at 9% down, and that meant 9,000 fewer listings going on the market in September. So this swing I'm talking about now, which I'll overlay, is not a year-on-year shortfall. It's actually the difference between April and September. The market's not great, we know that, but I actually think it's this swing which kind of exaggerates and make it feel quite a lot worse. So you can see there, London 16% up, falling to 19% down, so that's 36%. Yorkshire and the Humber, there's a 6% swing there. And that 17% swing in the UK, if we'd have been 8% up in September, as we were in April, that would have meant 17,000 more listings on the market. So we are talking about some quite big numbers here. I said earlier that there were some interesting differences of opinion on sales, and I will just show you a few. Let me just make clear, when I talk about sales, I'm talking about completed sales, not STC. So I just want to draw your attention to two articles that got published in the last 2 weeks. The first by The Times, who ran a story quoting that sales in August were down 15% year on year. And they used the land registry data to get that figure. In that same week, Today's Conveyancer ran a story saying number of property transactions up 6.1% on 2014. And their source there was the stamp duty database. So I've spoken to various colleagues and we've scratched our heads on this. We don't know why there'd be such a difference between the two. So I've run the two sets of data. First of all, land registry. Now, the key bit I want to draw you to here is that there's no month in 2015 where we've had more sales than the same month the year before. If I put that against the stamp duty database, similar trend, similar kind of seasonality there, but far more actual transactions. And there's 3 months there where sales are greater than that. Now, I've looked at our own corporate property sales, which we do about 6,000 a year to get the trend, and ours correlates a lot more closely to the land registry data. So from here on, I'll look at the land registry data. So sales volume in England, you've just seen this graph on the previous page, but just to make it clearer, not 1 month this year where we've been up on the year before, and in August, 15% down, and that's that figure that the Times article was quoting. I'm going to look at this north and south. As we saw with listings, there's a real divide in the country. So I'll just show you the north as a whole. So 2015, actually a few months where we've been up on 2014, and generally nowhere near as big a gap than the UK overall. In August, though, it was down just under 14%. You'll be pleased to hear I'm not going to show you another 9 graphs on this. I think you've all had enough of that. But I am going to just show you the regions of the north. And when I talk about the north, I'm talking about Yorkshire and Humber, North East, North West, and the 2 Midlands regions. So if I bring them through now, you can see that the Midlands are the worst affected. And as you go further north, that impact diminishes. And on the north as a whole, we are 5.7% down, which is about 15,000 sales year on year. I'm going to do the same for the south now, 2014, and you can see quite a big difference then to 2015. And in August, 16.3% down. So that 15% that the Times article was quoting, it's about 14% in the north and 16% in the south. Again, I'm just going to show you regionally what the differences are. You'll probably not be surprised to see that London is the worst affected region, nearly 14% down in the period Jan to August versus the same period the year before. And then the southwest is least affected, but still about 8%. And overall in the south of England, 10.3%. And as you can see there, that's over 30,000 sales, January to August. Just to make the UK picture clearer, I'm going to bring north and south through on the same slide. So you can see north 5.7% down, south 10.3% down, and all of England then 8.4% down, and that's 50,000 sales. just want to consider now some of the economic factors. I said there were the usual factors weren't at play here, and I'm going to run through some of them here. Interest rates, mortgage availability, how does that look? Fairly positive. Interest rates are remaining low, and mortgage availability, there's still as many mortgage approvals as there has been all year. They remain really steady. Secondly, unemployment. In the figures released for the quarter ending August 2015, we're at a 7-year low, so down to 5.3%. Stamp duty. In December 2014, in the autumn statement, stamp duty was actually reduced for 98% of the UK public, so that's not impacting. And then political. Now, whatever your political allegiance is here, we have got a stable majority government now, and it is pro-property, although after the second home stamp duty hike last week, you may not think so. So there's little to explain what has driven these changes, and so not much to explain what's going to reverse them. So there's no reason to suggest that listings or sales are going to change here. So some conclusions. Listings up until April, down since May. We saw that the southern regions were hit much harder than the northern ones, and we also saw if September had the same seasonality as April, then there'd be 17,000 more property listings on the market. The swing effect has made reductions feel greater. You know, that we were all soaring in April, and I'm sure some of you maybe even staffed up with the volumes that were coming through. And that's fallen off completely since September, so we're feeling it hard. Sales have started to follow listings, but not in all the regions, not to the extent that listings have fallen. So in, for example, London, sales haven't followed listings to that same level. So I think we should expect sales to follow, sales to fall even more here. And like I said before, there's little to explain the changes, and so reverse them. You know, perhaps the Help to Buy increase and the increase of buy to let has meant that the people buying property don't have properties to sell, and that multiplier effect that we associate with property is diminished. I'd like to make one more apology. There was a lot in there, but thank you all for being very kind to me. I do appreciate that. And I'd like to bring Donna back up onto the stage now to finish off, but thank you all for your time.